Long strokes, that's it. Good, good, good. Go. Let's go, mate. Drive that knee, drive the knee. Come on.
My strength and conditioning is different. I actually hired Greg Choate, who's an endurance coach, which seems weird because we're not an endurance sport, we're a sprint sport. You know, even 25 minutes, you're still basically at a sprint. He's a cyclist. He's a road biker by trade and trains a ton of triathletes and triathlons here in town. Has a lot of guys that are on the pro level for mountain biking and a few guys that are on the high level elite, low level of pro for road cycling. And I got really interested in road cycling because my body was getting beat up a little bit, and I started talking to him about how to keep my cardio up without putting the pressure of running all the time and swimming all the time. I have some inefficiencies in my shoulders, so swimming, if I do it too long, it starts to bother me. So I started road biking a lot, and then just started talking and found out that he has some strength and conditioning ideas. And my strength has actually gone up by doing a different kind of routine, because now I'm working on my inefficiencies that I have in my body. Everyone's got inefficiency, you know, everyone's right-handed or left-handed. So if you're right-handed, your right hand's gonna be stronger than your left hand. It's just natural because you use it more often. You know, you're better at writing with it. You know, I know a lot of guys that can write tremendously well, like amazingly beautiful penmanship with their right hand, and then they try to write with their left hand, looks like a three-year-old. So it's the small muscle group stuff that we're really working on now, and it's actually increased my speed, increased my power, but it's also increased my flexibility. So it's helped quite a bit.
My name is Greg Choate. I'm a trainer here in Las Vegas, Nevada. My background's in endurance sports, mainly cycling, triathlon, mountain biking, a lot of running. And I got involved in the fight game basically by walking into Extreme Couture. Was looking at some of the athletes down there, was actually watching Randy Couture train for his fight against Nog, and was just really impressed with the athletes down there. I've been working with a lot of different athletes for a long time, and that's sort of what sparked my interest in the MMA guys. I just thought, these guys are, you know, I've seen a lot of professional athletes train different sports, and I was just really impressed with the way they looked. And sort of got me interested, how could I get into that game? You know, I thought they'd be interesting guys to work with. And then when Trigg got released from the UFC, we sort of crossed paths and we started talking, and he's like, well, I'd like you to look at my training. And I think there's a lot of, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the Diaz brothers and their work rate and how mixed martial arts have become not just a game of technical aspects, it had actually become a game of conditioning. Because people, you know, you had guys who had rounded their game out. You know, their jiu-jitsu was good, their Muay Thai was good, their stand-up was really good, their wrestling was really good. And, you know, everybody had lifted their game up. And then it came down to who's the best conditioned, who moves the best. And I think a lot of these guys started to recognize that. And Frank was, you know, he's at the end of his game as far as his career is concerned. And he said, you know, I have to have every advantage I can have. We started doing a bit of work together and sort of rolled on from there. Right now I'm just working with Frank Trigg and working with Gray Maynard as well. So obviously I've been working with Trigg since he was released from the UFC. We've done 3 fights together now. We did his first fight in Tel Aviv. We did BAMMA 6 earlier this year, and now obviously BAMMA 7. And then about 3 months ago I got contacted by Gray Maynard, and Gray Maynard's, we had a long chat, and he said he wanted me to come on and start working with him in his camp. So now I do basically the same thing with Gray as I do with Frank. I do his conditioning work and I do his strength work. And we do a lot of movement work as well, making sure they move properly and making sure they've got, you know, good mobility through their joints and stuff. So I sort of come at it not from the standpoint of your typical trainer, where my background is sort of movement. I'm what's known as a functional movement specialist. So I use the corrective exercises we use in that to improve the way people move, to look at people's movement patterns, like how their brain controls how they move, and seems to be working. Push it out. That's good. Punch it out. That's a hit. Come on. Good. Back to 2 legs. Come on, mate. Come on. Push, push. All the way. Push to the bell. Push to the bell. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on, mate. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Relax.
What the fuck do you think I feel? Tired, sore, spent. I think I hooked her on Saturday night during fight night.
The interesting thing I found when I started working with Frank Trigg, and the more I looked at a lot of the different fighters who were out there, the feeling I got straight away was how hard they trained. And having worked with a lot of other athletes, I was, you know, I understand how much stress training puts on the body. And when I started to look at fighters, I was like, wow, these guys are training really, really hard. And from a physiological standpoint, their body's no different to any other athlete. I was interested to see how they handled that stress. So when I first started working with Frank Trigg, we went through a battery of tests. So I basically looked at how he moved. I looked at his range of motion through a lot of his joints. We looked at his metabolic conditioning. So we did like a gas analysis test where we're looking at how much oxygen he's sucking in and how much CO2 he's pushing out. And at that point, we can see what, you know, what his level of fitness is and how efficient he is. And we looked at that both on the bike, and I use the bike a lot for conditioning with the fighters because it's such a low impact form of conditioning. We also look at it on the treadmill and running as well. And the big thing I started to see with the fighters is they have a lot of high end, but not a lot of low end.
Good, nice.
So they've got this really tall performance base, but the foundation it's built on is not very solid from a metabolic conditioning standpoint. So when I started working with Frank, it was like, wow, this guy's got a ton of top end, but just nothing on the bottom.
Good, nice and quiet.
So that was our goal initially, was to start building him a better foundation to work off. So I think, you know, it was a different format of training for Frank. He was like, whoa, this is, you know, not hard like I'm used to, but it's difficult. And we sort of worked our way through, and certainly because I use a lot of metrics, I track a lot of things like, you know, you see Frank, I've always got him with a heart rate monitor on. When we're training on the bike, we use a lot of technology on the bike to measure his output and how much power he's putting out. And I use gas analysis machines in our testing. So we can test and retest and actually know for sure whether he's getting better or worse. And it was interesting for Frank just to see the gains that he made, you know, test cycle to test cycle. So definitely he's, you know, way better conditioned than he was, and he'll tell you, you know, in 14 years of fighting, he feels better than he has done the last 14 years. He moves better now. He's got much better conditioning. There was a lot of existing issues that we were dealing with. You know, he's beat himself up pretty badly over his career and suffered a lot of, you know, all the fighters have a lot of joint stuff and bits and pieces like that. But, you know, he's been great. He's really taken to the program really, really well. And he's put a lot of faith in me, which was a big step, I think, for a lot of the fighters, certainly Frank and Gray Maynard as well. You know, I'm from outside the fight world, fresh set of eyes, but for me, the body's the body, the athlete is the athlete.
Push.
You know, these guys are all great athletes,
Push,
and I think
push.
given another skill set, they could have been really good in another sport.
Good
So, you know, they've looked at the different way that I ask people to train,
Good. Drive
and
up
I
with the
think
hip as
they've
well.
been pretty pleased with the way their conditioning's come along. Frank's, you know, nearly 40 years old. He's in great shape. He's moving really well. He's looking forward to the fight. You know, I think the conditioning gives you a certain confidence as well. And me being able to show him hard data, because we record everything, we track everything. We can go, well, you were here at this date, and now 6 weeks later, you're here. And we just kept, you know, it's building on step after step. So that's certainly from a confidence standpoint has helped him out. But at the end of the day, it's a fight. You know, we all know anything can happen. You can walk in the ring, take a bad punch, and it's all over in 6.5 seconds. So, but it's, you know, he's in a great state of mind right now. He's enjoying, you know, his career again, which he wasn't. So, yeah, I've been impressed with him as an athlete. He knuckles down, he gets the job done. You know, you've seen him go through a workout, and he really pushes himself. So, he's a great guy to work with. He's tight. Come on. Come on. Come on, tight, tight, tight. Stay tight. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Relax. Good work, mate. Good work.
Usually hits me with a stick. The camera here is nice.
I didn't hear my sticks in the box.
Yeah, you know, one of the goals is always to get back to the UFC. You talk to any baseball player that's ever been into the World Series, whether he wins or loses, he's always spending the rest of his life. God forbid you're a second year or a rookie and you make the World Series and you win it. You spend the whole rest of your career trying to get back. I mean, that's the game. You make the Super Bowl, whether you win or you lose it, you spend the whole rest of your career as a football player trying to get back. the UFC is the biggest organization. It's the largest promotion. Depending on who you are, it's the biggest pay. I mean, some guys, it doesn't work out that way depending on how they are with their promotions, but it's the biggest. You always, once you have the taste of the big leagues in the UFC, for all of its madness, for all of its craziness, for all the demands that are put upon you, for all the pressure that comes with it, being on a television card of the UFC, everybody wants to get back there. You know, I lust after it. I drool after it. I think about the days I had. You know, even though I lost the title fights with Matt Hughes, even though I got rolled over by GSP, even though I got knocked out by Sarah and by Koscheck because of my injuries going into those fights, I still want to get back. You always want to get back into that promotion. Now, if it's not to be as a fighter, and I'm not good enough to get back in as a fighter, I can accept that because I've had such a long career and I've done so many things with it. I can accept that I'm not good enough to get back in there if they determine that, hey, you're not good enough to come back in. But if I can go in and be a commentator in some aspect for them, be a television personality for them in some aspect for them, and that's what they want, then I'm going back to the UFC that way. Because if you're going to work in the sport, work for the biggest and best. You know, that's the game, and that's what you want to do. And right now, commentating-wise, I'm very lucky because I get to work with Mark Cuban's group over at HDNet, and I'm very lucky that they keep me so busy. I mean, sometimes I got to call Andrew Simon and Daryl Ewalt and go, look, guys, I need, you know, can you give me a break here? I mean, we've got so many shows in a row. When's our next break? I mean, I got to find some time to spend with my family. And they do such a great job of scheduling things 6-7 weeks in a row. We're hot, and then we have like 4 or 5 weeks off. They're very good at that. And I'm so lucky and so blessed to be over there. But, you know, obviously, if I have a shot to get back, especially now with the Fox deal, if I have a shot to get on Fox mainstream, which never happened, but I mean, that's a dream of everybody that does any kind of commentating. You know, people always ask, you know, I used to say, back in the day, I want to be like Ryan Seacrest, where he just comes from radio, all of a sudden he gets this one little hit, random crappy show with some really bad singers on it, and he's a co-host, and all of a sudden the host and the producer's getting a big argument, and that guy's gone, and all of a sudden, you know what, I'll take the same pay and I'll do it again by myself, and all of a sudden he's Ryan Seacrest, and he's everywhere. You know, and I started thinking about it, I go, I don't want to be Ryan Seacrest, I want to be Joe Rogan. I mean, Joe Rogan goes from Fear Factor, finds a sport that he loves, comes on board with it when it's very, very infancy, steps on board, and it blows up around him as he's standing there. And if you look at that team, you know, I'm not gonna lie, Michael Chiavello and Frank Trigg are a pretty good freaking commentating team. We're pretty freaking good. We've got a lot of shows together. We work very well together. Chiavello and Trigg combination, I think, is the best combination on the planet. But Goldberg and Rogan have had so much more time together. They've had so much more time to deal with each other and look at each other's nuances and know where the other guy's going. That team is just, it's unbreakable. You know, and now look at Rogan. He had to skip Rio and let Kenny Florian take over his spot because he's filming Fear Factor again. So a guy goes from Fear Factor to UFC to still doing his stand-up the whole time, which he loves. He's in a sport that he loves, and now he's back on Fear Factor. Like the guy became wealthy because of Fear Factor the first time. He became rich because of Fear Factor the first time. He's gonna become wealthy because of Fear Factor the second time. I want to be like that. I want to be like Joe Rogan, where I've got two things I am absolutely in love with. Like my life passion every day is doing fighting and stand-up like Joe does, and then all of a sudden he's got this other thing on the other side that he loves to do as well, Fear Factor, and he's not going to work every day. He's going to have fun and pick on people, make them eat deer penis, and here's some cockroaches, and I mean he's having great. I mean he's having a lot of fun with it. You know, you want to find something like that and be like Joe Rogan, where I get to be in the UFC and be in MMA and be that lead commentator and be that guy, that lead color commentator, and be able to go every day. I'm not going to work. I'm going to watch some more fights. Like I get paid to watch fights. That's great. And then I have these other things that all of a sudden put me on Fox or ABC or NBC. You know, you're out there running. Of course, it's every guy's dream, and hopefully one day it'll happen for me too. I would love for the people to remember me as the guy that beat Matt Hughes in his prime. I would love for them to be the guy that left the organization, came back and put on a great title run, you know, and got a title finally over there. But it probably won't happen, you know, for me. It's just that's just how sports go. You know, sometimes you're not going to be the best no matter how hard you try. What I'd like the fans and I would like everyone to remember me by is a guy that against all odds, with being too short, being too small, not having the right atmosphere for most of his career, not having all the tools that you should have as an athlete, that still did pretty well, and that I was not only a citizen and a student of the sport, but that I'm a role model that people can look up to, the other fighters, not only the fans. You know, that's cool that fans look up to you, but I want the younger fighters to look up to me and be able to go, hey, look, you know, I wish I could, you know, train as hard, work as hard, think as hard, you know, as Trigg did, and hopefully have more success than he did when it's their time for a title shot.